pleasure to be back here with you again. One of the challenges with missionary life is that you're always missing somewhere. When we're here in Canada, we're missing our home in Juba. When we're in Juba, we're missing our home here in Canada. The upshot of that is that we have homes the world over. So all that to say, it's good to be home. As Pastor John said, we were last in Delaware in 2022 as pre-field missionaries. At that point, we were raising our prayer and financial support before we deployed to South Sudan. Years before that, Echo and her family were closely associated with Delaware Gospel Church through their work at Salem Acres and connections with the Wooden family. It's always great to come back and catch up with familiar faces and see what the church is up to. I was speaking with Pastor John a little bit before the service, and he was telling me about some of the improvements that are being made here in the midst of all of the sometimes dark and depressing news feed that you can get from the world. It is really good to hear, really encouraging to hear about a church that is alive and well. Echo graduated from high school in Stettler in 2012, wanting desperately to be an English teacher. She took a year for that pursuit at Bridger College and found that she absolutely hated it. She, by her own admission, is not cut up to be a teacher. Her mom, Amber, applied to the nursing program at Prairie College for her without telling her. It turned out to be a good thing though. Echo went and she loved it. She happened to meet me there, which I'm sure helped. I had received my calling into mission aviation years before when I was in high school. While we were there, we met, and she felt her own calling to the same, and the rest is history. I was born in Kingston, Ontario in 1996 to Richard and Jennifer Marples, who were at that time preparing for their own deployment with MAF to Papua New Guinea. In 1998, shortly after my younger brother was born, we moved overseas, packed up and moved overseas to begin our service there. I returned to Canada in 2014 to study aviation, also at Prairie College. We were married in 2016. We had our first child, our daughter Molly, in July of 2021. We were hired by MAF in September of that year, and after training and support raising, we moved to Africa in the beginning of 2023. Echo is quite obviously expecting our second child, our first son. He is due any day now, which is why we're back home and able to be here now. So again, thank you for helping us. We have been overseas in Africa for just over a year now. When we first landed in Africa, we landed in Nairobi, Kenya. We were there for a few weeks before I shifted off to Uganda, where I had to do MAF standardization, which simply put is learning to fly the airplane that they wanted me to in the African context under Mission Aviation Fellowship standard operating procedures. I had to stay there for almost 3 months. Molly and Echo, in the meantime, lived at the MAF compound in Nairobi, and were learning to live in Africa and adjust to culture and life there. Once I finished my standardization, I began the process of transferring my Canadian pilot's license to a Kenyan pilot's license. The aircraft that we fly in South Sudan work under are registered under the Kenyan Aviation Authority. So I needed to write quite a few exams and do a number of flight tests in order to get fully accredited in Kenya. So that was quite a long process. After we finished that, we had another process trying to get our visas so that we could move to South Sudan. But all of that was accomplished in August of last year when we moved up to South Sudan. We had a couple of weeks to settle in and adjust to our surroundings there before I began flying. And on September 19th of last year, I completed my first solo flight in the country, and I have been kept busy ever since, flying usually 4 or 5 days a week. So who is MAF? MAF is an international Christian mission organization that uses light aircraft to transform lives. MAF first began with the inspiration of Christian men and women that had seen service with the armed forces of various countries during World War II. Stuart King, one of the key founders, served with the Royal Air Force as an engineer during the war. Following the war, he and some of the other founders raised enough money to go on a tour of Africa, including what is present-day South Sudan, to see if there was need for, as they put it, a Christian air arm. The answer to that question was a resounding yes. Stuart King continued to serve in Africa for the next 40 years, helping to shape the ministry into what it is today. The common vision these pioneers held was to use their gifts and abilities gained during the war for the growth of God's kingdom. In the years since, the planes have changed, but the vision stays the same. And that is to see isolated people changed by the love of Christ. Our mission is serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. Our primary work is in multiplying effectiveness. MAF partners with over 1,500 organizations around the world, as well as thousands of individual doctors, missionaries, pastors, and aid workers. We work to provide safe, reliable transportation for these groups and organizations in countries with little to no infrastructure, freeing them up to focus on their own ministries and thereby multiplying effectiveness. MAF serves in about 26 countries on 5 continents, making it a truly global airline. We serve more destinations across the globe than any other airline as well. And this, of course, brings us to South Sudan. Sudan proper was a British colony that gained independence in 1956. MAF's first flight landed in Sudan in 1948 as part of Stuart King's survey mission, and the first regular operations began in 1950. Following Sudan's independence from Britain, the government expelled all missionaries, and that included MAF. We returned as we were able to in the years following, working out of bases in Uganda and Kenya, flying relief flights into the country. And the program in its current form was established in 2006. Since then, it has grown to become MAF's busiest African program. In 2011, South Sudan separated and became the world's youngest country, making Juba its capital and bringing MAF with it. Shortly after independence in 2013, the civil war erupted and lasted until February of 2020. Today, MAF in South Sudan has 7 Cessna Grand Caravans, 17 international staff, and 40 national staff. There are 2 MAF compounds in Juba, Karak and High Cinema. We live in Karak, which houses most of the families and children. You can see in this picture here, our house is the one second from the left. It's situated on the edge of the city, about 25 minutes from the airport, and just across the road from Juba Christian Academy, which is a good thing because there are currently 24 MAF children on the compound. Our international families hail from Canada, Switzerland, Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, South Africa, the United States, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Australia. And while most of the men and some of the ladies hold positions within MAF, the MAF spouses also bring a variety of careers and experience which really help to shape daily life. This group of ladies here put hours of blood, sweat, and tears into a grocery ministry every month. There are many missionary groups and families that live outside of Juba where there is no such thing as a grocery store. So the grocery service takes their shopping list for necessities like milk, oil, flour, fruits, and vegetables, fills and packs those orders in Juba, manages the refrigeration and transport aboard MAF's weekly shuttles to the east, northwest, and central parts of the country. The focus of this ministry is not only to help feed our international brothers and sisters in South Sudan, but to provide the emotional, spiritual, and social support they need to stay healthy while in ministry. ECHO has been attending and helping out with the compound Bible study, which our Canadian neighbor began at the request of her house help. These ladies are local ladies who clean for a living. They help us in the never-ending war against South Sudan's dust and insect population. These ladies are from all over the country, speak various languages, and have varying levels of education. All of them are followers of Jesus Christ, and very few of them own a Bible, never mind one that they can read in their own language. So every Monday at lunch, Karen and Echo share Bible stories in a very simple way, often pausing for translation, and then spend time discussing how to apply that scripture to their lives. We cannot overemphasize the wisdom of these ladies and the life experience that they bring with them. Echo is often surprised by how much of scripture she has colored through her own cultural lens, and how differently others view passages that she has taken for granted. There is much to be learned from these ladies. This is the fantastic Katrine Klassen, one of our neighbors. She is a registered nurse and mother of 4 from Switzerland. In our first few weeks in Juba, she was our lifeline. She drove us around all over the city, showing us what was what and keeping us out of trouble. While we were driving around with her, Echo learned about Katrine's personal wound care ministry. And Katrine goes out into the neighboring communities armed with a shoulder bag of donated medical supplies, sterilized bottles of homemade saline, and her broken Juba Arabic to seek out people with injuries. She serves the community around our compound, visits the local boys and girls schools, and once a week she will visit the street of Malakia, which is where most of the city's homeless boy population gather to sleep. She finds a step or piece of scaffolding to sit on, and a crowd of boys with various size injuries will gather around her to be seen by Mama Katrine. Echo has been joining her as much as she can, and we hope that we will be able to do more once Molly's in preschool and we only have one small child to keep track of. Most of these boys are quite young. The youngest that we have seen is 8. They leave or were abandoned by their families. Some come to the capital looking for work, and most of them are addicted to glue. You can see in this picture a few of the guys carrying around water bottles. Those will have about a half inch of mystery chemical in the bottom, and they are always huffing from them. This dulls any physical pain they feel and generally distracts them from the discomfort of their lives, but you can imagine the health complications that this causes. This picture is from the day that this young man entered the boys' school behind our compound. Echo and Katrine have been treating his leg for a few weeks, and they have been able to introduce him to the schoolmaster for the boys' home, who helped him to stop using the glue and found financial sponsorship into the school. The last time we spoke to him, he shared that he is currently learning to read and he is very excited about it. I could go on at great length about the different ministries that MAF spouses are involved in outside of MAF's regular work. And it really does make a large difference in the community around us. It is really cool that we can provide excellent aviation service as well as these extra ministries. They really help us plant roots in our community and form relationships and spread the gospel message across all 4 corners of South Sudan. So that's a bit about what Echo is up to. What about me? Aviation is the bread and butter if I were there. So as I said before, I will generally fly an airplane 4 or 5 days a week. We offer a variety of services in South Sudan. You can see on the map here. This is a list of all of the different destinations that we went to in 2023. So we offer a number of shuttle services. We'll offer a shuttle to the west, to the south, to the east, and to the northwest, as well as all of those blue locations are charter locations where a partner asked us to fly a specific flight for them. So there are less than half as many roads in South Sudan as there are in Alberta, serving a population about twice as large. And after years of being hammered by war, there are only 300 kilometers of paved road in the entire country. Most of the places that we land, you would not recognize as an airport. They are a grass or dirt strip, or in some cases, a road or a footpath, gravel road or footpath that has been widened up to accommodate an airplane. I've put together a brief video for you to show you just what a day of flying looks like for me, so please enjoy the ride. Great. Don't mind me, just technical difficulties. There we go. "5:30 here in Judah. I'm just getting ready to head off for my day at work. I thought it would be an interesting experience to bring you all along with me to show you what a day in the life looks like for a MAF pilot in South Sudan. Today I'll be flying the Western Shuttle, which is one of the services that we offer regularly to our partners here. Where the shuttle stops is dependent on what our partners need for the day, so today we'll be doing a double rotation. We'll be stopping first in Maridi, and then we'll come back to Juba, and then we'll continue on to Mundri and back to Juba again. So why don't you come with me, and we'll head off for a day of flying here in South Sudan. Yeah, so that's what I feel is a really good indication of just an average day in South Sudan. I don't know if you caught on one of the slides there on the way back from Mundry. I flew a team from Flame International, which is a UK-based charity that works with people from conflict-ridden areas to help free them from trauma. Most of the people that work with Flame have a military background. Most of them work as chaplains with the British Army. They were working in a small village just outside Mundry for a few weeks and flew with MAF between Juba and Mundry. I had a really great time speaking with them after the flight and hearing the stories about God at work healing people from the effects of trauma that they had suffered. I was speaking with the team lead, and she was telling me the story about they had just finished up a workshop and they were walking back to where their accommodation was, and there was this boy that had climbed up into a mango tree, lost his footing and fell to the ground. When they reached him, he was breathing, but he was not responsive at all. So he was alive, but they weren't sure what really was wrong. And access to healthcare in that part of the country is quite poor. So the only thing that they could do was pray. And pray they did, and the little boy opened his eyes and sat up and had no issues after that.
Wow.
So this is God at work in South Sudan. In late 2023, I helped fly a series of flights to Manding for one of our regular partners, MedAir. MedAir is a Christian organization that works in a number of countries around the world, providing medical and nutritional care, among other services. Between these two flights, I carried a total of 2 tons of cargo, which consisted of medicine, medical supplies, emergency nutritional supplements, and all the tools and material required to build several latrines for the community. Manding is definitely what you would describe as the end of the earth. It is an hour and 45-minute flight northeast of Juba, in a forgotten part of an already forgotten country. The last hour is spent flying over literally nothing but grassland and swamp. And then the village of Manding appears. There are no roads to Manding. Everything that has been brought in is either floated down the river on a treacherous multi-day journey or flown in by airplane. I knew just how isolated these people were when I landed and I was unloading the cargo, and the team from MedAir pulled up in a wooden donkey-drawn cart, and that was how they're planning on getting the material from the airplane to their location in the village. These people are well and truly isolated. A few weeks before I left to come back to Canada, I flew a group of infants and their caretakers to a hospital in Uganda in cooperation with Cure International. Cure works to provide life-changing surgery and Christ-centered care to children worldwide living with treatable disabilities. There were a total of 9 caretakers, 1 child, and 8 infants riding on their parents' laps, which ties the program record for the most souls on board a caravan. The child was suffering from cancer and was taken for treatment at a hospital in Entebbe, Uganda, and the rest of the infants were suffering from hydrocephalus. In partnership with Cure, we were able to take all of these sick infants from Juba to a hospital in Tororo, Uganda, where they will receive life-changing surgery that is not available in South Sudan. All of this was done with 0 cost to the families. The flights were funded by MAF partners in Europe, and the cost of medical care was taken care of people partnering with Cure. These stories, I feel, are really the core of Mission Aviation Fellowship. This is seeing isolated people transformed by the love of Christ. This is serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. This is flying for life. So how can you help? Well, first and foremost, we ask for prayer. Our work in South Sudan is not possible without consistent prayer, both from ourselves and from a team that is coming behind us from back home. You can join us in praise for how well we settled in and how well we feel at home in Juba. It's been just over half a year in South Sudan, and it really felt like leaving home to return home, which is kind of confusing, but at the same time, it's a really good feeling. You can also join us in praise for the work and impact that MAF is having in South Sudan. We are very much needed in this country. I was speaking to the team lead from Africa Inland Mission in South Sudan just a short while ago, and in his own words, he said that AIM would not be serving in South Sudan doing church planting and discipleship without MAF. And while we'll never be able to fulfill all of the needs around us, only God can do that, we are happy to serve and be fulfilled in that service. You can join us in prayer for a healthy and safe delivery for our baby boy, and that all of the required paperwork will come through in a timely fashion, and as well for our team's general health and safety as we operate in South Sudan. There's a very harsh climate that can have a rather detrimental effect on one's health, and we often deal with a very rocky political and economic situation within the city. South Sudan is hoping to have their first democratic election this December, and while we're expecting that there will be some turmoil over it, we are praying that it will remain generally calm and non-violent. So thank you again for having us back to share with you. If you're interested in hearing more about us and our ministry, please come find us. I will be sticking around for a while after the service, and we'd love to chat with you. If you're interested in partnering with us through prayer, finances, or by following along on social media or reading our newsletters, you can reach us at the info on screen, or again, you can come see Heck or I afterwards, and we'd love to help you out. The reality is that without the dedicated prayer and financial support from people such as yourselves and churches like Elburn Gospel Church, we and MAF would not be able to do the work that God has called us into. So thank you again, and we look forward to partnering with you and flying for life.